What's up, guys? I'm Gerald,
And I'm Nick.
and we are the new two Ps.
Vroom, and we're reviewing The Flash.
Get ready. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Get on in here. Two Ps on a podcast. Gerald here with you, and of course, my boy over on the flip side in New York State, Nick, is in the house for the very first time as a P. Nicholas, how are you, sir?
Welcome, everyone, to Two Bees on a Hivecast. I'm
What?
Nick.
What? I
What?
think you hopped on the wrong feed.
What?
What?
Bzz, bzz,
He's got like a.
bzz.
Those that are listening won't know, but he's got like a green, almost like it's a frog, I guess. But I mean, it kind of looks
See,
like
I
a
bring
pea
the
pod thing.
visual elements to the audio medium,
Yeah.
and that plays super well with an audio audience, and they're like, "Oh, we're on board with this right away."
Yeah,
They got
absolutely.
this. They got this. This is good. We're good. We're good. How are you, baby? It's good to be here.
I'm good, man. This is a test run, so we're doing this basically for the patrons and for each other to kind of see how it goes. Because up until this episode, Two Ps was essentially a top 5 show, a countdown show, and we kind of shifted gears. And I wanted to get a permanent co-host to come on with me every week and talk movies. And my boy Nick graciously stepped up to the plate, which is perfect because we go way back. We do live stream for The Cure together. We've been on multiple episodes on each other's shows together, etc. And we're just friends in real life, so it worked out perfectly. We're comfortable with each other.
Yay.
And well, on paper, we're friends in real life. Nick's like, wait a second. I don't know if we're getting that deep. So,
Just saying, let's keep this strictly professional, Mr. Morris. Strictly professional.
I don't know about all this friend shit. But yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm excited to see how this kind of works out. I've been watching a ton of movies. I recently got admitted to a critics group here locally, and I just really want to cover the new stuff. And I didn't get to do that on my show very often unless it was like a year-end show for the best of the year or whatever. And of course, I know you used to do this week in and week out with Epic Film Guys, so I know you love critiquing films as well.
Love it.
So here you are. So how do you feel about this new venture, man? Are you excited?
I'm good, man. I love. I studied film in school. Like I love analyzing film. I love getting into it, breaking it down. I love the emotional journeys that sometimes films can take you on.
Yep.
And it's really, really good to be back in that space, like on a more regular, on a more permanent basis. We're gonna do some fun things. We're gonna do new stuff, but we're also gonna have. We've talked about the roulette wheel, like yourself, myself, patrons, listeners, all have a say in there on the roulette wheel and on like something that we might watch if maybe we don't want to watch whatever's out in theaters, or it's gonna be really, really nice. As long as now, ladies and gentlemen, no horror. Gerald has renounced it. He told me before the recording, he's like, Nick, I'm no
Not tell you
longer
that.
a horror guy.
I did
He
not
said,
tell you that.
I'm done. Now he's got the sign still hanging behind him, but I know he flipped it off before the thing. He's like, I can't do horror anymore, man. I can't stand it
No,
anymore.
I did
I
not
don't
tell
even
you
like
that.
Mia Goth. Mia Goth was I don't even like her.
Definitely
She's
did
the
not say
worst.
that. Everything you've heard in the last 10 seconds is a fabrication. Did not come from me. We are going to be covering horror if it's the episode that week, if it's the movie that week. So buckle up, Buttercup.
Oh.
I don't know if you'll give any of those a good score or not, and I'll have to tell you why you're wrong for the most part. But we're going to do that. We're going to talk Oscars when it comes to award season. I'm an Oscars guy. I'm a horror guy.
Less excited for the Oscar stuff than I am for the horror stuff.
I know, right? Well, if it's movies, we'll cover it and we'll talk about it. We'll kind of bring our own spin to it and our own kind of camaraderie to it. And I'm looking forward to it, man. Now, what we're going to kind of do week in and week out is just kind of appear at the top, the banter. We'll have the main review that we're talking about that week, 30 to 60 minutes, just depending on how long the episode goes. This week, it's The Flash. It's kind of a test run. I don't know if this is going to be out to the public. Maybe it will someday. Maybe it'll stick with the patrons. We'll see how it goes. But in the top, so we're kind of building this kind of
Cinematic
template.
universe? No, that's the wrong thing.
We're building this kind of template for the show over the course of this episode and probably at least when we do Mission Impossible in a couple weeks and we're just going to kind of see what the flow is like and kind of what works. So we'll talk through it on this too, Nick, as opposed to just like doing it, like a dry run. So we're also going to kind of banter here at the top about other things that we have seen lately that we enjoy, that might be out in theaters or that we caught on streaming or whatever that we're not reviewing, full blown review. So I'll throw it to you first. I know you just got out of something really special tonight, actually, that you saw. I don't know if you want to talk about that or something else,
uh,
but in the last couple weeks or so, what's some stuff that you've seen cinematically that's kind of turned you on, brother?
well, last couple weeks. I mean, I saw the Flash. Look, now I'm Nick from another universe, and hey,
We're still doing the Flash.
in this universe, I was also the Fonz. Apparently, never mind. No listeners gonna know what that is. Okay, some of them will.
You were
But
doing
no.
the
So
thumb finger guns, yeah.
Spider Verse. I saw Spider Verse, Across the Spider Verse. Loved that. Fantastic.
No, I mean,
Loved that.
it
Loved
was
it. Absolutely loved
good.
it. I still gotta get my letterbox review up. By the way, my letterbox link, it will
Hmm.
be in the show notes of the episode. I do have a letterbox account now. I'm not gonna like go back historically and review things that I've seen ages ago
Nah,
until
you
and
can't.
unless I watch them again. I
Yeah.
gotta have them fresh in the mind before I can really do that. So I do have the letterbox though. That's going to be something I'm also going to be sharing. Like my Flash review will be up there after this episode goes out
Hmm.
to patrons and everything
Hmm.
like that. So yeah, Cross the Spider Verse, absolutely loved it. Cannot wait to see how that trilogy wraps up with Beyond the Spider Verse.
What are you into or across? Which one's better? Which one did you like better?
God, man, oh, that's tough.
It's not tough.
That's
It's not tough.
that's no, it is tough because
It's not
it's,
tough.
the journey that Miles goes on to like, try to get like some understanding and acceptance from his family. And meanwhile, Gwen's journey, like with her
Mhm.
dad and like trying to like just be this hero that she is and everything like that and looking to him for acceptance. The like just smash out of the park, greatness of the art style, the spot.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't know, man. I'm gonna say cross. I'm gonna say a cross right now, but if I'm pretty sure my scores for each one of them are probably tied. I'm pretty sure hovering like around an 8 or 9 for both of them.
I mean, they're both
So
great. They're both great. I prefer Into the Spider Verse. It just feels a little more complete to me, and it was a little more like awe inspiring because
no,
you
you know what it is? I know what it is. It's because it ends on a cliffhanger, and you consider it half of a really long movie, and you think it's really long movie, and then immediately you're just like, nope, you're out of it because now it's like the, the
you
the
don't
last two
know me.
chapters. The last
You
two
don't.
chapters is like one 5 hour long
Hey, hey,
movie,
hey,
and you're
hey,
like, no, it's
hey,
too
hey,
long,
hey.
too
This
long.
is our
Can't do
first
it.
episode. You don't know me, but also
Yeah.
that's 100% accurate.
Uh huh. Yeah.
No. I mean, inadvertently, maybe that kind of got to me a little bit because I felt like the ending was in the middle of the movie and then it kept going for another hour. And then I felt like the ending was the middle. Like shit started to happen and culminate, and then the movie was over to be continued. And I'm
The
like,
journey's just beginning, baby. The journey is
yeah,
just beginning. Strap yourself in. It's I mean,
they're
it's
both
it's it's
great.
fantastic. But Sony, please give your animators and artists a break, please. You've seen a lot of the reports coming out, I'm sure, of how overworked insanely those people were to get that movie out. It's
Well,
beautiful. It looks incredible, but man, they need some much better
I
working
will tell you,
conditions.
in relation to that and to our discussion tonight, I think the animators on the Flash probably had a couple too many breaks. We'll get into that here shortly. All
But
right.
it's all
So
good, man,
for
because you
me,
said you said Logan's all set to be like to do
right?
cinematic effects for like the next DC
Yeah,
stuff,
he
right?
signed up. He
Yeah,
signed
no,
up. He'll
we're
be
good.
like 12 when it comes out.
We're
It'll be
good,
great.
man. We got this. We're good. We're good.
He'll do it on his iPad, and it'll be on the up.
So
So
yeah, so
for me, I did a double feature today. Actually, at the theater, I went to see No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence, the Queen. I absolutely
the
freaking love her, bro. And
legitimately throws that movie on her back and
oh
carries
god,
it across the finish line.
absolutely
How
owns that.
her range, like the amount of range that she has to be able to convey as much emotion as she did, all the physical
Hmm.
comedy that she does in the movie. And dude, I mean, she still is an unbelievable knockout on
Oh,
top of it all.
smoke show. Yeah,
She's just absolutely incredible. And
I
then
mean
the
she's one
kid,
of the best.
Feldman, how good is that kid to stand toe to toe with Jennifer Lawrence and all those scenes, go through such
I
a range
know.
of emotion himself.
Yeah.
It's way better than I thought it was going to be. Like, I mean, it has its lulls. It definitely
Yeah.
way
I thought
underuses
it
Matthew Broderick, but
yeah, I know. I was like, where's Ferris at? It kind of trailed off a little bit in the last like 20, 30 minutes. Like I felt like it was kind
yeah.
of like, what are we doing? Like, let's wrap this up. And it kind of like went on a little too long at the end in the last
Well, it's
act.
because you know where this
Yeah, it
movie's gonna go.
exactly. It's predictable
Beat
in
for
that way.
beat, it's super predictable.
Mhm.
So when it doesn't just get to the point of like, all right, come on, like let's have this happen. So this can happen. So this can happen. Like it's extremely formulaic, but all these movies are those type of movies. Every single one of them has the same plot. It's the cast, it's the performances. And yeah, I mean, it absolute knock out of the park. I really, really enjoyed it. And I mean, dude, let's just be dudes here for just a second.
Yeah.
That beach scene, though, am I right?
Woo. I mean, it's out there now, so I don't think it's a spoiler, but we're talking full frontal J Law here
Hundy
on the
P.
beach. And yeah, she was out there, man. She was doing she
Hundy P.
was letting it all hang out.
Mm.
And yeah, she's a smoke show. She's one of the best actresses working today. And she can, you know,
She
whatever you want
carries
to
the whole thing.
say, she can absolutely carry a project, and she proved that.
She's
Whether
funny,
it's
she's
some,
dramatic. Like I said, the physical comedy too, like a physical comedy, like the one-liners and stuff. Every aspect of this film that is her is out of the park. It's let down by some of the other things. Like her friends, like the two friends that she has are just
I love the dude
lifeless
though. He
duds.
was funny. He was
No,
funny. The
no,
guy was
nothing.
funny.
Everything he said fell completely flat for me.
I loved it.
Did not
He
like that
just had me
character at all.
cracking up, dude. I was like,
No.
he's just the weird, husband of the friend or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nah, couldn't do it.
Hmm,
Couldn't do
hmm.
it.
And then the only other one I want to mention I saw today, along with that, was Past Lives, the A24 kind of romance drama film about two childhood sweethearts who get reunited after 20 years in New York City. And they were from Korea originally. So they both immigrated to America and get reunited. And it's a very touching story that never lost my interest. I was always invested in what the two main characters were going through and kind of their journey to get back to each other, even though you knew it was going to have a quote unquote not happy ending. No matter how you look at it, it's tough to have a happy ending in that scenario because she's married and so on and so on. So it creates a lot of interesting dynamics. But Greta Lee is awesome in the lead role, and Celine Song is a first time director that I could not believe that she had never had any features under her belt after seeing what she did with this movie. But I highly recommend Past Lives. It's actually probably my number one of the year right now. And I know
Wow.
I just saw it, so I'm going to sit on that for a little bit, but it's definitely in the running. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's playing at Cinemapolis here in a few days. It opens on the 30th here in
okay,
Ithaca, where I'm located. So I'm definitely gonna get my way down to Cinemapolis so I can check it out because I've been seeing, like, I saw JD from In Session Film posted a really glowing review of it as well. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I've got to check it out, and that's what I really really love. Like, yeah, you see the big blockbusters and the big popcorn movies that you have a lot of fun with and stuff like that, but I love dramas, and I really, really love like independent style like filmmaking and things like that. That's my bread
yeah,
and butter. That's what I love because I loved those films take you on an emotional journey like
yeah,
from start to finish, and that's what I love about them so much.
yeah, yeah. The directors are really telling the story as opposed to, kind of translating source material, if you will. So all right. Another thing that we're gonna do that I assume is pretty unique. I've never seen it done before. Nick, are you ready? We're gonna get into our review of The Flash. You have your prop
I'm
there,
sorry, the
your
what?
video.
What are we reviewing?
The Flash, Batman 3,
Never heard of it.
as I said on my instant
I'm now
reaction.
Nick from a universe where I've never heard of it. What is it? What are you talking about?
Wow,
Who are
it's gonna be
you?
tough. It's gonna be tough to review this. You
Oh
do look
man.
different though. You don't
Oh
have your
man.
pea pod on.
I'm
Are
ready.
you
I got
ready?
my I got my
All right.
Cancer Research Institute notebook here. I'm
All
ready to
right.
go,
So
baby.
The Flash. Here we go. Three, two, one. 7 out of
Bam.
10. Got to say it too, Nick, for the
Five.
audio.
5 out of 10, baby.
Wow. Wow.
Five.
And all
Five
right.
out of 10.
All right. So we decided on the new iteration of the show here, we're going to give our score at the top out of 10 and then dive into why it is either on point or vastly different or whatever, whatever. Obviously, I liked it a little bit more than you did based on the scoring there. Nick, you were mentioning to me that the only thing that you'd really said publicly about The Flash was that it was better than Thor Love and Thunder, which
Oh, yeah.
so
Country
is,
mile there.
I mean, but then again, what's not really?
Mhm.
So 5 out of 10. Uh, let me think of how to. Okay, by the way, spoilers galore, right? We're doing spoiler reviews on these episodes, or do you want to do like a non spoilery first? Again, we're talking through it, so I'm just asking.
I mean, in
You want
this
to do a
case,
general thing?
I would say who cares?
True.
But I mean, like general, like once we start doing like the show proper, probably do at least like the recommend, don't recommend, or whatever. Or like, I mean, they'll know from our scores probably, but either way, I mean,
So for this episode, we'll just say spoilers,
for
and we'll
this, we
just
could just get
talk
into
about it.
like a full scale discussion about it. There's I mean, number one, so two things about that. Number one, there's not much that the public does not know about this film as it is. Uh,
Hmm.
Everything about this movie was pretty much all over the marketing. And, it's already been out for what, 3 weeks? So, at this point, especially since this is going out to a limited audience first, like by the time the regular audience might even hear it, it'll
Yeah.
be who knows how far down the line. So I don't even think that matters in that scheme
So
of things either.
So I agree with you. We'll just, I think on the main show when we start doing it, we'll do like a little, 5 minute or less non-spoiler general thoughts
Yeah.
kind of segment, and then we'll just go full spoilers. But for the purposes of this episode on The Flash, if you have not seen it, you may want to fast forward to the end of the episode or come back when you have
I
seen it
see,
because we're going to go
I
full
I see
spoilers.
I see what you did there. Fast forward, run real fast, get to the end.
So I'm interested now. I got to be honest with you. Okay, I did not expect your score to be less than mine on this movie, which might be the biggest surprise for me as a movie fan. Is that I like this as much as I did because I really didn't think I was going to. I mean, Michael Keaton in the bat suit, I knew I was going to be connected to that. I knew I was going to freaking love that stuff. But like you said, a lot of that had kind of already been spoiled for me in one way or another, whether it was the trailers or articles or still images from the set or like whatever. So I kind of already knew what I was going to be looking at there. And it kind of took a little bit away from that, like, nostalgic experience because it wasn't as big of a surprise. So
And
there are some things that
to
are
add even
really,
more to that, like let me let
yeah,
me
go
let me
ahead.
get right in on top of that too, because Miller, and let's get out in front of it with Ezra Miller,
Hmm.
whether and I mean this is it's still so tough to me to try to remember to use plural pronouns for a single person sometimes. So if I trip over that, I'm sorry. I do want to be respectful of people, but say what you will about him, one way or the other, and I feel a specific certain way about it, like whatever. But him not being part of the marketing of this movie, and I saw something on Twitter that I really, really resonated with, that I think hurt this movie's box office a lot because this movie's not doing well either. We know that.
No.
But I think WB basically locking him in a basement somewhere and not letting him out to do any press. I mean, he was at the premiere, but that's pretty much it. All
Hmm.
of the marketing on this very, very, very heavily focused on Supergirl and on Michael Keaton's Batman.
Hmm.
Like, he's in the marketing just because he has to be for it to be a Flash movie, but the majority of the marketing is all not centered around him, to the point where you have Keaton's Batman in the movie. And I want to talk a lot more about Keaton's Batman and whatnot. You have Keaton's Batman in the movie. Almost all of his scenes I had already seen before I saw this movie because of
Right.
trailers and whatnot. He's not in the movie that much.
Right.
And pretty much most of what he's in the movie, you've already seen in the trailers. So I bought a ticket for Michael Keaton. I love Michael Keaton's Batman. I grew up watching it on VHS, holding a cassette recorder up to the TV speakers to record Danny Elfman's soundtrack. That is the movie that made me
Yeah.
love movies. No one loves Batman 89 like more than I do. As much, sure, I'll buy that argument. I adore that movie through and through with every fiber of my being. I was like, I showed up for that ticket. So when you give me this movie, that doesn't really kind of have as much of him in it as I expected based on how heavily he was marketed to be in the movie. It disappointed me significantly. And I think, like I said, I agree with that statement. I don't know who said it on Twitter. I didn't write it down, but like I said, keeping Miller locked up and not getting Miller out in front to get up there, like accusations and all that kind of stuff, to apologize for things, to take ownership for things, and to be done with it, and to promote this as his movie. Because let's make no mistake about it, this is still his movie. Well, this is still their movie. Sorry, I'm gonna trip over it. I know I am. I'm sorry.
I know what you meant.
This is still Miller's movie through and through. He's the best part of it by a country mile. They are best, but God damn it, I suck at pronouns.
You know, to your point, and to kind of piggyback a little bit on what you're saying, with the Keaton stuff, real quick, I'll just say, and then I'll touch on Ezra Miller too. But with the Keaton stuff, my favorite portion with Keaton was the stuff that I had not seen yet, even though that may not have been the best stuff that he did in the movie, because it was a surprise to me. Like when he's got the long gray hair in the kitchen, and we have that kind of fight choreography playing out in the kitchen there when he was
Yep.
making breakfast or whatever he was making. Like that shit wasn't in the
Spaghetti.
trailers. Oh yeah, spaghetti. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff wasn't in the trailers. So that was really cool, and kind of seeing him as that older wise man, I thought was really cool. And then there's some other scenes a little later on in the Batcave and stuff that I didn't see in any of the trailers. But the stuff with him in the bat suit and like a lot of the action sequences I had seen, so it just didn't have the impact on me that it probably had on a lot of fans that got to see it before the trailers or before a lot of the promotional stuff.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the Ezra Miller stuff, like it I feel like you and I have talked about this on the old iteration of the show before with an actor like Kevin Spacey, for example. But it just I get really I don't know what to do. Like as a critic and as somebody who talks about movies, because like I come into the film and I'm like, well, Ezra Miller's a piece of shit. Like I can't believe he did that to that girl. I can't believe the videos I saw, and I don't want to support them, Ezra Miller, but Michael Keaton's in it. I'm really excited to see Supergirl, and I don't know. There's other aspects of the movie that I do want to support, but then it's like, well, I mean, thousands of people work on a film, especially a film of this caliber. So I don't, and I'm honestly seeking advice because I don't really know how to separate the art from the artist kind of argument that we've heard 1,000 times. I don't personally really know what to do when I'm faced with that. Like I don't support Ezra Miller, but I wanted to see the movie to judge it as a film. You know what I mean? Not as a extension of him, or I'm sorry, I'm doing the same thing. An extension of them, right? So it's a really rough gray area for me personally as a movie fan, because you know they are not the only ones that are going to be controversial in movies that we see in the near future or that we have seen in the past. I mean, I know me and you share an affinity for American Beauty, and I just use Kevin Spacey as an example. Like, I'll die on a hill that that's one of the greatest movies ever made. I mean, he's a piece
Easily.
of shit. I mean, he's a horrible person, but the movie itself is a fine piece of art. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about separating that, or if you even thought about doing that when you saw The Flash, or
I think you said it exactly correctly. You wanted to judge the movie on its own merits, and I think that that's all you have to take into it. Like, if you want to see the movie, like you're either going to want to see the film or you're not going to want to see the film. And I think performance and weighing all that in terms of the film, I think you have to set that stuff aside at the door. If you dismiss it out of hand, like there's a craft to it, and say what you will about Miller, there's still like a performance there that has to be watched, that has to be reviewed, that has to be like critiqued or whatever. And that's why I showed up. Like that's still why I went because of Keaton. I love Keaton's Batman, as I said, and I was genuinely curious to see where this film was going to go, exactly what it was going to do. I love Man of Steel. It's so good. It's so good, Gerald. I really, really love Man of Steel. And I was excited for them to bring back Michael Shannon as Zod and like all the
Hmm.
Kryptonians and do all that kind of stuff because they were going to kind of be replaying with some of those beats of like the DCEU cinematic history and whatnot. That was all really fascinating to me. I was really excited to see where the film was going to go with it. So those are the reasons I showed up. But I'm going to view like everything in the film just critically and leave everything else at the door because here's the real truth of it. Nobody knows. Like a lot of that stuff is still there's one story on this side, there's one story on this side. You can condemn Miller or you can praise Miller in the public space for the things that they may or may not have done. You know, a lot of social media seems to have already judged him, whether, you know, when he hasn't been found guilty of a lot of that kind of stuff, or there's alternate stories about like the different things. So like I said, it's to me it's just, you know, I just it
It
focus on the
becomes,
movie. The
yeah, it
movie is the
becomes a
movie.
right. It becomes a larger kind of like social, experiment conversation when you go past just the 2 hour movie and kind of the framework that we're trying to review. So,
Yeah,
with
if you
that
want to
being
have a debate
said,
about Miller, like a debate about Miller or Miller's
right,
character, that's one debate. I don't think that that debate has anything to do with the quality of the Flash, and I don't even think it has anything to do with the quality of their performance as Barry Allen in the Flash
right.
at all.
I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, it was a really good performance. The duality and basically the two different
Best part of
roles
the
that he had
movie,
to play. Yeah, I mean,
100% best part of the movie.
so so we're sitting here and I'm thinking to myself before the episode, like I got Nick on, super fan of, Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Zack Snyder stuff. Like I know you love all that shit historically, which I mean is fine, even though I'm kind of lukewarm on most of it. So coming into the Flash, I'm thinking it's going to be more of the same. And you give it a 5, I give it a 7. So we're talking about where this movie went for you. It seems like maybe it didn't go where you really wanted it to go, I guess, in comparison to the rest of the universe.
I mean,
Like, what didn't you like about it?
this isn't really tied to any of that kind of stuff canonically because we know that stuff's not really going anywhere anyway. It's just kind of tangentially tied to it because, of course, you have like the whole opening sequence and things like that with Batfleck and Wonder
Yeah.
Woman showing up and all that. And all that was really, really nice. I really enjoyed that whole open action sequence, except for and this is one of the biggest criticisms that I'm going to have of this film. And I'm not talking Andy Muschietti about the speed bubble thing where it was like him like having run into like the speed force or whatever where it was
Right.
everything was like all the timelines were like surrounding him and stuff. That I got what they were going for there, that it wasn't meant to look realistic. It was meant to look more like roughly almost sketched out, which perfectly fine. But why in the speed like fast forward version, like when you actually see the Flash like doing the whole speed thing, why was it like all like yellow tinted and
Mhm.
like why did there have to be like we've already seen really really great speedster scenes in films before. Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past comes to mind. Fantastic sequence, which yes, there's a bunch of CGI at play in that sequence, but why did this film feel like it had to rely so much more on CGI? This is one of my biggest problems with comic book movies, modern comic book movies, and it seems to just keep getting worse no matter how much people critique it and how much people criticize it. They just keep doing more and more and more of this CGI nonsense, and then you get to this big bombastic fight scene at the end of it, and it was just a giant CGI mess. It's so much
Yeah.
CGI noise, so much visual noise being thrown at the screen. It's so frustrating to me as a viewer
Yeah.
to watch this kind of stuff. And so many things about this movie really, really, really frustrated me. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, to the point where, I mean, like, what was aside from to just be aside from to pull in the nostalgia crowd to really hype them up for nostalgia's sake, Why Keaton's Batman? What point does it serve aside from nostalgia? What journey does that character go on in this film? Because they allude to one, like they almost allude to this journey of him like missing being Batman, but it feels to me like so much of that journey was left on the cutting room floor, and what
Yeah.
we got of it wasn't really enough to sell this character's journey to me for me to care that they put him in the movie. And I said when I first found out about this and I first saw the trailers and stuff, I said, please, modern comic book writing, don't ruin like my favorite Batman and my one of my favorite movies of all time. And it did. It 100% did. Why is he in the movie? What purpose does he serve?
Y-
What journey does that character go on?
Yeah,
Because
it does.
I don't see one.
No, I agree with you. I think it does feel like a little bit of a red herring. Like he's kind of there for nostalgia's sake. I mean, I get the whole like multiple timelines because, again, major spoilers here, but obviously we get Clooney later. We had Affleck in the opening. We
Mhm.
have Keaton in the middle. So, I mean, we have all these different ones. And then we had the fucking horrid cartoon like drawings of a lot of the other, like Christopher Reeve and Nick Cage, and like all these other Supermen from the past.
And
So I
here's
get
the
the
thing about those.
multiple timelines, but
The the thing about those too, and a lot of people have dragged those, and I think rightfully so, because they're just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake.
yeah,
They have no impact on the film whatsoever. They're pointless. They're literally meaningless scenes. They're
right.
meaningless. Like they just cut to really bad CGI shots of Christopher Reeve and of I guess Adam West's Batman was in there in
Yeah,
one of
he's
them
in there as well. Nick
and whatever.
Cage.
And yeah, it was super super cool. I guess they actually got Nicolas Cage to film something for that.
Oh,
And like
okay. I didn't know that.
that was supposed to be in that movie, that Superman Lives movie, that Tim Burton movie that never got made, like Superman fighting a giant spider or whatever. Like that's all well and good. And I as a Superman fan, as somebody who loves all that kind of stuff and loves superheroes and loves all that, I liked seeing it from that perspective. But what is it doing here? What is it doing in this movie? What is the point of it being in this movie? Unless you have Nicolas Cage's Superman showing up to fight General Zod, that I would have cared about. That
Yeah.
would have been fantastic. That I would have upped my because put these characters in the movie. Don't just try to sell me nostalgia. That's all these filmmakers, that's all this script is trying to do, is just trying to sell me nostalgia.
You
That's
know, the
all it's
thing
trying to do.
the thing that kind of got me a little bit too was all the noise around the movie too. It was really hard to focus on the movie itself by the time I got to see it. So I saw it opening weekend. It had been out, to the general public for a few days. I think I saw it on a Saturday. I took my son Logan to see it Saturday night after it
Yep.
came out like that
Yep.
Thursday or whatever. So I saw it after it had been out a few days. And eh, I feel like Warner Brothers and DC was like, let's show the world this movie months in advance.
Mhm.
Okay. And then let's have everybody who's nostalgic about Keaton and who traditionally loves comic book stuff or whatever, and they're going to call it the greatest superhero movie ever, or one of the greatest superhero movies ever, which a lot of people did say that. And I'm like, whoa, like, wait a second. And your eyebrow kind of goes up like, wow, maybe we have something here. And then by
I
the
think
time
that
I got
movie's
to
in
see it,
here.
what's that?
I think that movie's in here. I
Yeah, I
think
think it
that
could be.
movie, I think the greatest superhero movie of all time is embedded in the DNA of this, but I think it's executed so badly in some aspects that it
Yeah.
completely loses that.
And to get
And
back to
it
what
loses any shred of that,
And to
honestly.
get back to what we were saying before too, I mean, the noise around Ezra Miller and all that stuff. I mean, it's just whether, and we were even saying how we're trying to blind ourselves to that when we go to review a film or whatever. We can't. I mean, you can't. I mean, with social media today and the
You
news
can
and
you can just log off of Twitter. You
well,
can because
yeah,
that's
you can
that's the only
delete all your
place
accounts.
That's the only place that I ever see anything about Miller. It's literally the only place I ever see people complaining about Miller. Like I would very very strongly wager, general audience wise, who no who nobody cares.
Right.
Willing to bet you anything. Like general audience wise, the GA doesn't care.
But what
The
I was going to say
whole
too, Nick,
Twitter
is that
sphere has already judged him and judged them. Excuse me, the Twitter sphere that has already judged them on all these different things, like already condemned them no matter what. Like,
right,
yeah, the Twitter sphere is very loud. It's the same way that like the really hardcore Snyder fans are super super loud on
sure.
Twitter, but I don't really think they're the majority. I really, really don't.
No, I get it, and I agree with that to a certain extent. I guess what I'm saying is, though, is that with all the noise surrounding Miller, whether it's just on Twitter or whatever, just having that kind of in your mind and them, because we already said that Ezra Miller is the best part, at least performance wise, of this movie, and I
Easily.
agree with that.
Easily the
I
best part
I
of this
agree with
film.
that. I think his performance is honestly phenomenal, and if there were no, quote unquote controversies going on around him, I'm sure the praise would be raining down on him from Twitter and everybody else because he does a really phenomenal job in this movie with the duality of the two characters that he's playing.
Yeah.
But I think that him not being involved in the lead up to the movie, like you already said, I mean, really barely even on the posters. I mean, he's got his mask on or whatever, but I mean, that's just the Flash character for the most part. Uh, it just hurts, like, kind of how you take in this movie, the intake of this movie, because his performance is so genuine and pure and frankly good in this movie. You have to really, as an audience member, it has to be his movie to you. And I think like somebody like me or our mutual friend Justin, for example, like it's more about Keaton and kind of some of the nostalgia. And I put myself in that boat too. And you already said you kind of bought your ticket for Keaton as well. So
100%.
I think it just kind of like bogs down the perception of the film or the way it was intended to be perceived. And then
Yeah.
you already touched on it a little bit, but I mean, the CGI is laughable to me. I mean, I saw what Machete said, and it was on purpose, and is that.
Well,
I
that
mean, I
it
was
makes sense
watching the
in
end of
the
the movie,
speed
dude.
bubble thing.
I
In,
was
like, the
watching the end of
speed
the
bubble
movie,
thing,
Nick.
that perfectly makes sense because I get
Well,
the
that
artistic
part
flair they're
maybe,
going for
yeah,
there, but in just the normal movie and just the normal
it's
scenes, like,
not good.
so much of it looks really, 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 really,
It's not good.
really bad.
It's not good.
Really
It
bad.
looks like it reminded me of. This is the first time I've said this out loud, but it just came to my mind. This reminded me of like the early like Pixar days with like Buzz and Woody and like the animation for their like faces and stuff. Like it was
But,
just not
I mean,
good.
and here's the thing, like, to drag other parts of this movie because I mean, there's still good things I wanna talk about, but
Yeah.
you get, like, Michael Shannon as Zod is easily one of the top, if not the top villain in like all the DC movies that they've done. One of the most memorable comic book villains of like the new millennium, we'll say, at least for my money. Michael Shannon's a fantastic actor. Michael Shannon as Zod in Man of Steel is easily one of the best parts about that film. He is menacing. You feel his disdain for humanity by the end of it, and like you actually believe him when he says he's going to kill literally every single person
Right.
on the planet. You literally believe him. Who was this character in this movie? Because let me tell you who this Michael Shannon looked like. He looked like he was phoning it in. He was not that super menacing, like evil Zod that he was in Man of Steel.
No.
He's sleepwalking through this. He's there
Yep.
just to get a paycheck. And you even take like Ante Truha, I think is how you pronounce her name, like his lead, like the lead, like female Kryptonian lieutenant or whatever she is. She was such a huge part of Man of Steel, and then they bring her back for this as well, and I don't even think she has a line of dialogue in it. I didn't even realize it was her until one of the shots that wasn't like wildly warped by CGI, where I could actually look at it and I could actually see that, and I'm just like, I was just shocked that they brought all these different characters back, and then they kind of made them like, even though, I mean, we get to the point we get to in the movie where they can't win, like, eventually, which I liked. That was one of the things to talk about, things I liked. I liked that they didn't win. I liked that they couldn't win. Like, no matter what they did, this timeline, like like Zod won. Zod wins. But the problem is like I said, even when you compare him to what he did in Man of Steel, it's almost like it's not even the same character to me. It literally, legitimately feels like Michael Shannon's just like,
I agree.
all right, fine. Let's do this Zod thing. I get,
Right.
like, he's nowhere near. He doesn't have anywhere near the screen presence that
I
he does
agree.
in Man of Steel.
I
Not even
agree. I mean,
close.
I can't remember anything he even said in this movie, and I love him. I mean, like you said, he's one of the greatest living actors right now, and he
Yeah,
was just so
easily.
underused in this movie. Like nothing memorable came out of this film,
And when
especially when
can
you're
you
looking at
ever
like
say,
Man of Steel.
name one other film that Michael Shannon is in where he is not a memorable aspect of it?
Right. I agree.
You
I
know?
mean, the guy always kills it, and I mean, even in Man of Steel, I mean, he was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
prefer Terrence Stamp's General Zod, but that's a discussion for another time. Superman 2, but that's fine. Um, Sasha Cali as Kara, loved
Waste.
her. I
Utter
loved
waste.
her. I also feel like she was underused, which I can't. Is what
Name
you're
me
saying.
Tell me one thing about her except for that she is Kal-El's cousin.
I mean, that's it.
One single thing about that character, because that's literally all the movie gives you. She is Kal-El's cousin.
Mhm.
That's it. Nothing. Again, the marketing was so heavily focusing on, and again, that's detrimental because it was supposed to be Miller, and they basically balked at that and said, nope, we're going to keep Miller locked in a cell somewhere. And yeah, so like ridiculously underused. Now, is she great for what she has to work with? Yeah, she's really
Yeah, I
good.
agree.
She's
I
really,
agree.
really good, and I would love to see her
I
return and
I
actually
left.
have the character carry, like, a little bit of weight, but th she she's such a flat, useless character. Like I said, pointless to
It's
me. It's, like,
frustrating.
it's utterly pointless. Like, here's a new character, man, man, man. Like, it's the least possible amount of thing you can do for a character who is supposed to have at least some kind of weight to the plot. Like, yeah, she doesn't trust them for all of what, 7 seconds before she decides to come back and help them fight Zod. It everything, and that's the other kind of things that I really, really dislike in this movie too. Is like Keaton, when the Flashes come and they're talking to Keaton's Batman and everything like that, and they're trying to get him to help with Zod or whatever they're trying to do, and he's just basically like, "Yep, let's do it." Like, there's not it's almost like there's not even a discussion in the
Right.
movie about it. Like, there there
Right.
there seems to be somewhere in this movie, there's this whole arc with his character about getting back in the bat suit and everything that I don't feel like it's there on the screen. I feel like it was probably there on the page and it's just gone. It's just nowhere. Where
Yeah.
is it?
I agree. I mean, for me, what I enjoyed about it, because obviously I gave it a 7 out of 10, is I walked away from it fulfilled. Like I walked away from it like I was entertained. I tried to turn off that critical piece of me where I was like kind of just dragging the CGI in my mind, like this is absolutely horrible. But when I took the CGI kind of problems I had out of my mind, I was able to enjoy it. And they were laughable, but it didn't hinder my enjoyment of the film. And my son really loved it. He's going to be 10 years old this year, and he just eats this kind of stuff up. He loves the
Yeah, of
Flash
course.
character in the comics, and it was really cool and he doesn't know anything about the Ezra Miller controversy. I mean, obviously, I'm
Right.
not going to talk to him about that stuff. So,
Right.
for him to see this character that he loves from the comics kind of come to life on screen because he was too young to see it in the previous, big screen at least. So, I just really enjoyed sharing that with him. And it was just an enjoyable movie experience for me. But I remember walking away from it when I reflected on it, a couple days after and in preparing for this review that it does frustrate me the era that we live in. We could get into a whole big discussion about just comic book related movies in general, which is really what I'm talking about. But with a movie like this, just the era that we live in, not being able to be surprised in the theater, not being able to get gut punched with that I'm a kid again feeling in the theater when it happens. You
Mhm.
mentioned Batman 89. I mean, sure, there were trailers and McDonald's commercials and whatever else, but you know what I mean? Like, you didn't feel like your heart rumbling until you were in the theater watching it. You know what I mean? And with a
And
movie
even
like The
then,
Flash, and with a movie like The Flash, like, I just can't. And I mean, I'm talking about superhero movies in general now, and I'm getting on my old man on my lawn take here, but I'm just not as excited for them
welcome to
anymore.
me in like 2014.
Right, right, right. I'm just not excited for him anymore, and that's a bummer because I mean, you tell me Michael Keaton's getting back in the bat suit. I mean, I should be, rolling around in my damn yard, making snow angels or whatever. And I mean, it was exciting and I enjoyed seeing it and I'm glad that it exists. But at
I
the
mean, it's
same time,
great
I
to
don't feel
see
the way I felt back then.
it's great to see all the action sequences with him as Batman. Just again, super wonderful. That amazing shot when he's in the Batwing and he jumps out of the Batwing and is flying down, and the Batwing kind of drifts up into the shot over the moon to give you the
Yeah,
bat signal. Like all that stuff is super, super great. It's amazing. Like I said, I this was the easiest sell you had to do in the world to me. All you had to do was put Michael Keaton's Batman in this movie and make it mean something to me outside of the fact that I love Batman 1989. And that is the crime for me, is that they didn't do that. They wanted to cash in on my nostalgic love for something, and that's not enough for me to give a movie a positive rating. That's not enough for me to even tick up a positive score. A movie still has, like, you still have to have a reason to me to have that character. Why are you bringing this character into this movie? Why, other than to sell tickets and to just bring the audience in for nostalgia's sake? And that, like, watching the movie, I felt like that's the only thing he was doing there.
yeah.
And that's the biggest heartbreaker of all to me, because
Like why?
Keaton, what he's got in the movie, like the scenes he's got in the movie, he's fantastic. The dude's still got it. He's a
Yeah, he
great
does.
actor. He really pulls the great dramatic stuff off with the character in this film. Why doesn't he get more to do?
Why? I mean, here's a simple little thing that I think would have made a huge difference to go a long way in what I'm kind of talking about with the nostalgia and kind of like getting that rush.
Mhm.
Why did they have to show in the trailer where he says, "Let's get nuts"? I'll just use that one little example. Like, why couldn't they have saved that for the feature and you saw it for the first time when you saw it?
Or counterpoint, why could they just not make him say it at all? Because it was one
Well,
random
yeah,
one-off thing he said to the Joker once when he was in Vicky Vale's apartment. It's not like it was his catchphrase or something. Like, they literally threw it in there because they wanted to. It's the same reason when he comes out in the bat suit that the whole movie stops and they're just like, oh, there he is, and they're like, yeah, I'm Batman. The whole shot is,
yeah,
it's just for the audience. It's just for nostalgia's
right.
sake. It doesn't mean anything to the movie. It's pointless.
Exactly. It doesn't. And that, but from a nostalgia perspective, that's what I mean though, because then you take the nostalgia away from it too, because now you've seen it. So
Yeah.
you know it's gonna, unless they don't put it in the movie. But I mean, you've already witnessed it. So like the excitement comes from seeing it in the trailer. Like, oh, Michael Keaton's as Batman again. He says, "Let's get nuts." Oh my God, I've got a boner. You know what I mean? But then when you see it in the theater, it's like, well, I already saw it. I know he's gonna say it.
Yep.
So I just, if you're talking about nostalgia, I just hated how they the mark and the marketing I hated for this movie. I mean, I had friends seeing this 2-3 months ago talking about how it's the best thing since The Dark Knight and all this other shit. And if it was for them, then that's great, and I'm excited that they enjoyed it that much. I just think that the hype leading up to it kind of hurt it. The marketing kind of hurt it. I think leading up to it, or the lack of
I
marketing.
I didn't have a lot of anticipation going into the film. I really didn't. I was excited to see Keaton. I was really
Yeah.
excited to see Keaton's Batman, but I didn't have a lot of hope that the movie was going to be any good at all. I have been very down on superhero cinema across the
Yep.
board as of late. I very famously swore off going to superhero movies ever again after Thor: Love and Thunder because it was so bad. And this was, I mean, this was light years beyond what Thor: Love and Thunder is. Make no mistake, but it didn't do enough for me. I want to talk really quick though, because we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about the actual plot of this movie and why I think this movie, why the one thing about this movie that works so well is Miller's performance,
Yeah.
is his dual performances, or their dual performances. It's so I I really really love the decision in the script to bring in himself as a younger Barry. And then you've got the older Barry who's wiser, who's gone through the tragedy of losing his mom and then having his dad taken away from him. Why was Ron Livingston his dad? Why didn't they just get Billy Crudup back? I don't understand that, but that's neither here nor there. He's not really that big of a factor in the movie. But I really, really love that you take the older Barry who has had the tragedy of losing his mother and all these kind of different things. And then you bring in this young, youthful, optimistic Barry who hasn't had to live that life. He's had both of his parents. He's had a much more idyllic and kind of ridiculous life. And I think it's naivety on the older Barry's part to think that he can give him his powers, or give, I mean, he inadvertently gives him his powers, but I think it's naivety on the older Barry's part to give him those flash powers and then still expect kind of the younger Barry to end up being like the
Right.
older Barry. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I really love that there kind of becomes that breaking point in the film between those two characters of the younger Barry's refusal to stop trying to change it when no matter what he does, he can't change it because the thought of it is so horrible to him, when the older Barry realizes the only way to even try to set things right is things have to play out the way that they did. Like that scene, like, dude, like that was the one part of this movie that really, really gutted me when he goes back to the store and he has to take the tomatoes out of her cart.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like Miller's performance just in that scene alone is better than superhero movies ever get or probably even deserve. It's
Right.
so good. It's such a good performance, even just in that scene alone. It's utterly heartbreaking. That and the weight. Imagine if you can, as an audience member, the weight of that decision that you have to let someone that you love, like literally more than life itself, die.
Right.
It's that's the genius of the script. That's where all of its strength was derived from.
Right. And
Not Keaton as Batman, not
no.
Supergirl, not Zod, not any of those other different elements. That's the elements that this script needed to focus on, was more of the duality of the two Barrys, more of
Well, that's where the
that kind
heart
of
of the movie
conflict
is
between the
too.
two.
I mean,
It
that's where the
100%.
heart of the film is in his
100%.
story and in
That's literally all five of my points right there. It is that good. Like their performance is that good as the dual characters themselves. And then, like I said, it's like you get that like he's kind of naive in the beginning where he's talking to Affleck's Batman and he's like, no, I can fix it. I can go back. I can change things. I just can't interfere or interact with anything else in the thing. So all I have to do is just this one thing, you
right.
know? And I love how quickly that spirals out of control and
Which of course it
completely
would. I mean, that
changes
would
everything. Yeah, of
spiral.
course it would.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
that's like it's unbelievable how
And that
good
also brought we didn't
their
talk about
performance is in that.
yeah, I agree. And that also brought a little bit like when you talk about the younger Barry, when he goes into that timeline, that also brings in a little bit of the comedy, which we didn't really talk about yet either.
Yep.
Because DC's gotten some flack for, jokes landing awkwardly or whatever and trying to be on par with the MCU's comedy or however you want to say it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I thought it was pretty like kind of heartfelt, touching humor
Yeah, I
when the
liked it.
two Barrys were together in this movie. I felt like
I liked it. I liked, younger Barry for the first time, like sprinting out of the house and his clothes burn off and he's like standing out and
right,
like naked and all that stuff. Funny, yeah.
yeah.
It had good funny moments. I enjoyed those. I enjoyed those aspects of it. I
It
really
was a bummer to stick around, and the forced comedy or some of the forced comedy came in the hidden scene at the end with Momoa. I don't. That was kind of weird. Did you stay for the
Oh yeah, I saw it, yeah. Yeah.
end? I mean, what
I
was that like a setup for the next Aquaman or something? Like,
I
what was
I
that?
I really don't know.
I
I
mean, it was
couldn't
just
I
Momoa
couldn't tell you.
drunk falling into a. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was supposed to be funny, but also was like, why did I stay for this?
Here's the thing, someone who cares more about this stuff, like these superhero movies and like their continuity and stuff. I've seen so many people complaining about this whole DC reboot and people didn't go watch it because they know the universe is going to be rebooted. Nobody cares.
Right?
Nobody cares outside of your stupid Twitter bubbles. Nobody cares. The
Why do
general audience
you?
doesn't care
Why do you think? I mean, this is obviously just our opinion, but why do you think the movie is failing financially?
because did the trailers to you stand out as anything? I mean, the Keaton aspect of it aside, but did they stand out as anything to you other than, oh, this looks like another like super noisy CGI superhero movie?
No, you know what? And I'll no, it didn't. And I'll tell you, I just thought of this, and I stand by this 100%. If Michael Keaton weren't in this, I probably wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah, okay,
I probably
fair
wouldn't have
enough.
gone to see this movie.
But I think wholesale, I think that superhero movies and Marvel, even like people used to love Marvel so much. Marvel could do no wrong. Marvel movies were like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes and everything like that. And ever since Endgame, the little chinks in the armor have started to show.
Hmm.
And project after project now, even the Marvel stuff is starting to go on a decline. The general audience is already not hot on the DC stuff anyway, because love it or hate it for whatever your reaction to it is. A lot of, the Zack Snyder stuff is pretty divisive, and a lot of it falls in the middle for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think superhero cinema in general has been trending downwards in terms of quality. Look at Thor Love and Thunder. I didn't see Quantumania, but I heard that was an absolute disaster. I watched Black Adam. That was unfathomably bad. A lot of these superhero movies are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I just think I think the audience is getting tired of it. I
Yeah, I
just
do
don't
too.
think they care anymore.
I do
I
too.
really don't think they care anymore. And they seem to me, and maybe this is just me, but they seem, no matter how much we as a collective people have said, please stop making these over the top CGI noise fest finales in these comic book movies, they just keep making them more and more and more effects driven, stupid, silly nonsense.
Yeah. And back in the 80s and 90s, you got one every 2 or 3 years, and it was an event, and there was a great build up. And now it's like if you go 6 months without one, there's something wrong.
It's a
Hollywood
saturation issue too. There is
missing
there
a
is
step.
a huge market saturation issue too, because not even just the movies, but you've also got, literally, there's a new Marvel TV series
TV
every like
shows.
2 months.
Yeah, yeah. With
It's
Disney
it's
Plus and everything else. Yeah.
overkill. This stuff, it's way too much, and it gets to a point where it's just like, literally, it's just mass produced. I mentioned a lot of the time in like the old days on EFG and stuff like that, like Marvel's coloring books, like they're paint by numbers movies, and
Hmm.
they've become even more of that in the interceding time frame. Like, I used to complain about that stuff literally in like 2014, 2015, and it's gotten 10 times worse. These are
Yeah, it has.
all these superhero movies are so cookie cutter anymore. They might have one or two great elements that stand out really well, and maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. If you enjoy it, great, that's amazing, but it's got to do more for me. It's got to do way more for me.
Well, let's do a quick wrap up on the Flash here. So, for me, like I said, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it's an enjoyable movie experience, especially for someone like me who is pretty low on the DC EU for the most part. I mean, every movie they've put out, there's bits and pieces of it I like, and different characters that I like and that stick with me. But this is the first movie in quite a while, not counting Zack Snyder's Justice League that came out on HBO Max. But aside from that, this is the first movie where I've kind of enjoyed it from beginning to end. I really do think Barry's story is at the heart of it, and
Mhm.
without Miller's performance and without that kind of foundation, it would literally just be ugly CGI noise with
Mhm.
some mixed in nostalgia.
Yep.
So the irony is, I would not have even seen this movie had it not been for some of the nostalgia bait that exists with,
Mhm.
particularly with Keaton. And I really wanted to see what they did with Supergirl, which I enjoyed. I thought she was underused, but I love the actress, and I love kind of seeing that character on screen again because, I haven't seen, because I didn't watch any of the WB shows or whatever, so I haven't seen Supergirl on screen since the '80s.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see that too, even though she looked much different. Um, Visually, it was a great experience to see that character on screen as well. So, for me, if you are not kind of tired of the regurgitation from the superhero genre, I feel like there's a lot to like here with the Flash. The CGI is horrid. I mean, that is easily number one on my list of cons with this movie. It's just laughably bad. No matter what Machete or anybody else says, it just does not look good. It does not look worthy of a big budget superhero film, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, but if you can kind of turn that off for a second, which I had to do when I watched it, the younger you are, the more you'll probably enjoy this movie as well. If you have not young kids, but if you have preteens or
Yeah, yeah,
teenagers,
yeah, for sure.
they would probably enjoy it as well.
Yep.
So yeah, The Flash is a 7 out of 10 for me. I think it's an enjoyable superhero film, which coming from me is saying a lot because I'm kind of over him. Nick, what are your final thoughts on The Flash, brother?
Don't waste your time. Period. End of story. Done. Don't waste your time. It's not that there's not good things about the movie, but for me, they're not worth sitting through. Just, I mean, if you want to go to the theater and just have characters and things just chucked out to you because of nostalgia sake or for nostalgia's sake, then whatever. I no, just don't even waste your time. Just don't. Just literally stop wasting your time and give it. It's lazy. All these superhero movies are so lazy anymore, and I'm over it.
So we're going to do a segment at the end of each episode called the comment section, where we head over to the comment section to see what the fans had to say. Now, me and Nick are going to handpick one question each week that gets posed to us in the realm of the discussion. So tonight would be about the Flash or superhero films. And do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first? I've got one, and I've got a backup.
I'll let you go first. It's your show.
So
This is your baby. You do it.
mm, we've got, you know what? We've kind of inadvertently talked about a couple, a couple of these already.
Which is nice, and I
Yeah.
thank you first of all. Thank you everybody who got back to us in the comment box. It's amazing. Thank you.
So the one I was going to, well, yeah. See, we kind of already talked about that a little bit. So my number one was from Tony, a good friend of the show, has been for many years, patron of the show. He said, "Would this movie have been received any better if they had left some of the cameos and plots out of the trailer, like Keaton's return?" And then he says, "In my opinion, people would have lost their mind finding that out in the theater, and that would have driven positive word of mouth. When you know everything that's coming from the advertising, it loses the payoff." That is exactly what I've been saying for the duration of this episode, Tony. Uh, Nick, what if we were in a world where
Wait, let
it
me get
was
there.
not
Wait, let me run. Let me run really fast and get there. Hang on. Wait.
get there?
Okay, I'm there.
I could tell by the CGI you were there. Um, Seriously though, like, could you imagine if they didn't spill the beans, if nobody knew, if they kept a lid on it, the movie premieres and the word of mouth starts going? You got to see this. There's a cameo in this that you're not going to believe. I don't know. I mean, what do you think what do you think the box office is looking like if that's the route that they took? Because they spoon fed us the Keaton stuff.
And I will say so. I have two answers to this. This was my number one as well, by the way. So I'm glad we picked one and a backup.
All right.
So fantastic question, Tony. And I think to answer it from the perspective of the Keaton thing, I think if you're marketing and I think if you're the studio, that's almost too big to keep under wraps because you have to sit there and weigh it. It's like, will the Keaton cameo, like, will the positive word of mouth from this outweigh if people see that Keaton's Batman is coming back? Holy cow, everybody loves Keaton's Batman. Everybody's going to want to tune out just to see Keaton's Batman. You and I both bought tickets to this movie because of Keaton's Batman. How many other people can say that exact same thing? A lot of people that saw this movie saw it for Keaton's Batman. So, like, that point established, I think from a studio perspective, I understand them wanting to front that. Now, follow up from that, I think that Supergirl should have been left out of all of the marketing. I think we should have seen maybe even just a flowing shot of a cape or like a shot of like the super suit or something, because in the movie Barry thinks he's going to save Superman. He thinks that
Right.
Superman is in captivity, and it turns out it's not Superman. Imagine if the audience finds that out even
Hmm.
at the same time as the characters in the film do. That even would have been way bigger. Like I said, I get you want to have, I mean, number one, all the CGI cameos, Christopher Reeve, Adam West, no, get him out of here. But like, I even get like, hey, you get like Nicolas Cage in here, and maybe he wouldn't do like the whole thing or like whatever. But like seriously, like get
I loved, just real
other
quick.
characters in here.
I loved the Clooney one. Just so you know,
Oh,
I thought that was
The Clooney
I
thing,
thought that
the
was
Clooney thing was
great,
great. The
and
Clooney
that
thing
was
was
one that I
really
didn't know about. Did you know about that prior
no,
to?
that one I did.
I
That one
didn't
I did
either.
not know about. That one
Yeah,
I absolutely did not know about, and I really loved it.
I didn't either, and
And
I dug it, which I think is a little bit to Tony's point too. Is like that
yeah,
one did kind of like, holy shit, George
so yeah,
Clooney.
I think in a perfect world, in this world in which Miller has all the trouble that Miller has had, condemn him or not, that was hurting this movie. So they
Yeah,
pivoted to the Keaton and the everything else in the marketing and whatnot.
yeah,
I
they
think
almost had to.
no matter what, if you don't market those aspects and you focus, if all of your marketing, especially from the studio perspective where they kept him buried, Which is why, to circle back to that point that I made earlier, that comment that I saw on Twitter, it was the biggest mistake they made was burying Miller and not having him be any part of the marketing, not getting out in front of all the stuff that he's been accused of and all that stuff, and taking some ownership of it, making some apologies and things like that, and making some
Yeah.
statements. I know there's a lot of ongoing legal stuff, so it's tricky to what he can and can't talk about, what they can and can't talk about. Sorry. But I in this world, no. In a perfect world wherein Miller is Hollywood's golden person,
Person. There you
in
go.
which Miller is Hollywood's golden person, and like seeing the trailers, everyone is like, "Oh my god, I love them so much! I cannot wait to see the Flash. I cannot wait to see Ezra Miller's take on this character continue, et
And
cetera, et
then
cetera,
you
et cetera."
have Keaton.
Then
Yeah, yeah.
then yes, I think
Yeah.
it requires both answers in that case. But
I
yeah,
agree. I think
in
it's a
this world,
result of
never would have happened.
exactly. I think it's a result of the climate around it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I agree with you.
Toxic,
But
the toxicity that surrounds it,
so what
whether
question
that
did
be
you
toxicity from Miller, the movie itself, or from certain
Yeah.
aspects of some segments of fandom around the movie.
Yeah. So what question did you choose from the old comments section there, buddy?
I chose good buddy of mine, good buddy of yours, Mr. Chris Yaney.
Yeah.
And his question was, would using Grant Gustin as one of the berries have helped in your opinion? Full stop. No, absolutely emphatically not. Stop this nonsense of the Flash TV show and Grant Gustin and all this stuff. No, no,
Oh
emphatically
man.
no.
What about having him as one of the horrid CGI things? No?
If he was a cameo in the movie, if he showed up just as a different Flash to help out do other stuff,
Yeah, sure.
that's and see, here's the thing. This bugged me about like Spider-Man No Way Home too, where it's all just characters and things that we're familiar with. Why don't you're going into a multiverse with limitless possibilities. Why don't they chuck a few extra characters in here? Because they just chucked the characters that are in this movie in it for the heck of it anyway. Why not grab us a different Superman from a different universe? Why not grab us a different Batman or a different what just just throw them in there. Throw them in there. Who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares? But no, absolutely not. I think the best aspect of the movie is the duality of young, uh, naive, but he's led this like idyllic life Barry versus the older, like having experienced tragedy Barry, both played by Miller. I think it's great. I think it's a masterstroke in terms of the performance that they give, and I think it works incredibly well to the script. It's easily the best part of the film, easily.
Well, as we're recording this today, Nick, and then we'll wrap up, but I guess you saw the casting news for Superman, David Cornsweet. I think I'm saying that correctly.
I have no idea who that person is. I have no
Uh,
idea. I saw the announcement, but I
he
have no idea who it is.
The only thing I know him from is he had a small role in a movie called Pearl that I really loved last year with my girl Mia Goth in it, of course. That's the
He
only
said
thing
he
I
said he
know him.
hates her now, guys. He told it in confidence. He said it
Nah,
to me at the beginning of the
I
show.
didn't say that.
100% said it.
He's a newcomer though. He's only been in a few movies, and the only one like I said, the only one I know him from is Pearl.
Yeah,
But
I've
he,
literally never seen him in anything. So I mean, he looks the part. Definitely looks the part.
yeah,
So we'll see.
yeah, he looks
I'm
like
I'm eager to see
Henry
it.
Cavill, to be honest. I mean, younger Henry Cavill. So, but
I'll be, I
anyway,
mean, well, except for maybe Tyler Hoechlin, the guy that plays him on the Superman TV show now, like the Superman and Lois TV show now. I think every cinematic Superman has looked pretty similar. Like Reeve and Brandon Routh, even like they
yeah,
all
that's true.
look
I mean, they
pretty
all look like
similar.
Superman. Yeah,
Yeah,
from
like
comic
they
book Superman.
definitely cast a specific type, like facial structure wise for Superman. They all look pretty similar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're my Superman brother, and our first episode is in the bag here, and I enjoyed it, even though the movie was, not necessarily a masterwork that we're sitting there talking about, but it was a good discussion. And this is going to be for the patrons, at least up top here in the beginning when I get it thrown up there on Patreon. So please comment on Patreon or on social media and just let us know what you thought of the flow of the show. What segments
Please
did
do.
you like? What should we cut? What should we add? And we'll be kind of tweaking it over the next month or so, leading up to the official premiere of the show, if you want to call it that. So we're going to do Mission Impossible.
Barbie.
Yeah, for Barbie, but we're going to do, what are we going to do? Mission Impossible. We're going to do a
Yep.
test run on that one.
Yep. We're gonna
And
do Dead Reckoning.
Maybe one more before Barbie, but we'll have to see what's coming out. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
what else comes out besides the indie, which I'm seeing indie
Yeah, I'm
on
not.
Thursday?
I don't fucking care. I mean, what? I wish I cared. I just don't care. I don't care.
I mean, see, like
I'll
I'm
go
more
watch
excited to
the
see
old
Indy than I
ones.
was to see the Flash. I'm literally more excited to see Indy than I was to see the Flash because Indy just has like Indy always has like a great energy to it. There's always an energy. Now this will be James Mangold, not Spielberg for the first time, so it'll be interesting to
Yeah,
see if
and
he
I
can
do
bring
love
that same
Mangold.
kind of energy.
I do love Mangold as a director. So I
Yeah,
don't know. I'm hopeful. I just don't know if I'm going to see it in the theater. So
I'm
um,
Hyundai PC in the theater. I'd see it Thursday. See it opening night, maybe.
I'll hit you up if
We could look, we don't have to do something that's coming out in theaters either. We can
no,
just
I
pick
know.
like
Yeah.
a nostalgia movie and then we can review it too.
Yeah, we could do that too. We didn't do the roulette wheel on this episode, so we'll have to figure that out for the next one because we can do like a screen share or whatever and spin a
Well, we're only
wheel
going
and
to do that if we don't have something to cover, right?
figure something. Yeah, but I'm saying we'll have to do it to lead up to that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
like we're gonna have to plot out the schedule like ahead of time, at least to a certain degree, and then we know if it's like okay, well this week we're not watching or we're not reviewing anything anyway.
right.
So yeah, let's pull out the roulette wheel for this show, for this show, for this show, or yeah, whatever.
Well, we'll definitely do Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. I got an early screener for that, and I'm excited
I
to see.
got
I
my
can't wait.
tickets already. I can't wait. I'm really debating. I haven't decided yet, and I kind of want to, but I don't have a lot of free time, especially right now. My work is insane, but I really want to take the trip to Syracuse and see it in IMAX. I really,
Mhm.
really want to see it in IMAX because it's going to be worth. It is going to be worth the price of
That's the
admission
kind
in
of movie.
IMAX.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one
this
and that one
100%
in
kind of movie.
yeah that one in a movie like Oppenheimer. Let's do IMAX or get
I
the fuck
care
out.
much less about seeing Oppenheimer in IMAX than I care about
Well,
seeing Top
Nolan's a
Gun, or
psycho
not
though.
Top Gun, but
Nolan's a psycho though.
I
He's
mean,
done
Oppenheimer's
some
gonna be
fucking
shot very well.
yeah.
I have no debate about that whatsoever, but
I mean, Nolan makes his like home movies on Thanksgiving in fucking IMAX. You know what I mean? The guy's a psycho.
it's true.
All right, so Nick, I love you. I know we got to come up with the sign off too, but we don't have it for this episode. I don't think.
Get
Or
out.
did I tell you? I told you. Did I tell you a sign off, or didn't I tell you a sign off? No. Okay.
You said you were gonna just lay on a lot of expletives at the audience and things like that,
I think I
and
said something
also
about
you were gonna finally reveal how much you hate horror movies now, and you were never gonna watch them again.
that's not. Man, you're really trying to bring that out, make that a thing, aren't you? I um I feel like maybe we were just going to say what the next week's movie is, but we don't really have that right now. The next one will probably be Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and we'll do that for the patrons and give it a little test run.
Yep.
Um, I think that's it. So collectively, our score for the Flash would have been a 6 out of 10 because Nick gave it a 5, I gave it a 7. So there you go. The two P's give it a 6 out of 10 for the Flash. Nick, I enjoyed speaking with you, buddy. You're a good person.
I hate that it's a passing score, but I'll live with it.
Yeah, I'm I messed it up. I
I'll live.
can't believe I gave
You
it more
ruined
than
it.
you did. Yeah,
You ruined it.
I thought you were going to come in
I've
hot
been
with
and
7 6.
honestly, I've been back and forth about my score for it between a 5 and a 6, and but ultimately it comes down between 5 and 6. It comes down to do I recommend other people see it or not, and no, I don't.
Yeah, no, I hear
If
that.
I gave it a 6, 6 is my lowest recommend, and I can't recommend that people see it because it doesn't have a lot of value
Well, once again, Gerald fucked that up.
outside of cheap nostalgia to me.
Yeah, once again, Gerald fucked that up, man. I'm sorry.
Once again, Gerald ruins everything. Ladies and gentlemen, be good to yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. Take good
Yes,
care of yourselves until next time. We have been the two bees on a hive cast.
to the new P's. The new P's is what
The
we're being coined over
new
on social media.
peas.
The new P's. All right, so we'll get together soon for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. That is a long fucking title, but we'll be there for it. Nick,
Vroom!
talk to you then, man.
Universe where Dead Reckoning Part 2 came out, and oh my god, you can't wait to see it. It's gonna be amazing.
Hmm. You
Did
went
you
there and
buy
came
that?
back.
You didn't buy that. No.
Mm. No. The CGI was I couldn't buy it. It was
Not quick.
too spotty.